Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're a little bit earlier. We've gone live at 9 o'clock this morning because there was a lot of noise last night about the Qatari bid being successful. So we're going to get into all that. We're going to pick through the bones of where these reports came from. Are they reliable? What is happening? There's also the stock market element to this as well. The stock price went up. So we want to know, why has the stock price gone up? Is that because the market is reacting to some sort of news regarding the takeover of Manchester United Football Club? So make sure you are getting involved in the comments and the chat because we want to hear from you lot. It was around sort of 10 o'clock, half 10 last night that this all happened. And initially, when you see sort of Sheikh Jassim and Qatar trending, you always think, oh, it's just people saying they want rid of the Glazers, they want Sheikh Jassim. There's a lot of people on social media quite keen for a Qatari takeover, especially when City's parade was going on. People are reacting to that, and it's like, look, City is celebrating these wins. We need to get taken over. We need to get the Glazers out. So there's a little bit of that, and I just thought that's what it was when I initially looked at it. I thought it would just be a bit of a reaction. But then you look at it, and you see there were reports coming from certain outlets that had ties to the Qatari family. So you think, well, okay, is there something in that? Why would a newspaper outlet or a news outlet, be reporting something when it's got ties to the Qatari family if it didn't know something was going on? But we'll pick through the bones of it, because it doesn't seem that open and shut that it's a case of, oh, the Qataris are leaking something because they know they've been successful. They may well be successful, but I don't think we can say that just yet, and I'll explain why. First of all, get into some of the comments, because loads of people in here. Great to see everyone. Thanks for joining in. Loads of people say good morning. I'm glad to see that a lot of the regular people have been in the comments and the chat straight away. Despite the fact we're a lot earlier than normal. So always good to see you lovely people. Right, let me just have a look. Let me see where we're up to with this, because there was a tweet that went out last night that sort of sent, this is the one that sent everyone into a frenzy. And I think this was from Al Watan Qatar, and it said, press reports the success of Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad bin Jassim's acquisition of United and the announcement of the deal soon. Now, loads of people jumped on this and said, well, this sort of proves that it's happening. There was people saying that this outlet is tied to Qatar, so there must be some fire to this smoke. Now, if you read that, it says press reports. So it's not saying it's done, it's saying the press reports. Now, when I looked at it and where these initial press reports were coming from, I think a lot of it, and by all means, get involved in the comments and the chat here, because I've been trying to sort of unravel this morning on my way into work. So if I'm mistaken on something, if there's something I missed, I want you to let me know. And if you know something, please do get involved in the chat, because I want to get this right and I want us to be clear on just what is happening. Now, some of this seems to have stemmed from this news outlet that's called 2 Sport TV that did a tweet that said, breaking news, agreement has been reached between Sheikh Jassim and Manchester United. Announcement will be in soon, and Qatar will be the new owner of Manchester United. So a lot of that seems to be the initial report. Now, that news outlet, or that Twitter account, I think it's only got a few hundred followers, so I don't know how reliable that is. So you look at it and you go, okay, is that where they're getting it from? If they're getting it from there, is that true? And there's other places that are reporting it that have already said months ago, oh, it's done, it's happening, Qatar is successful. And then, obviously, that's not the case. We've gone through another few rounds of bids. So I'm just trying to find somewhere where you can go, look, this looks very reliable. Now, to sort of unpick it a bit more, I think it's Faisal, let me just find the chap, Faisal Islam on Twitter, who works for the BBC. I think we've got those tweets we should bring up for you. So he has I think he does the podcast, How to Buy a Football Club. I think I've been on that, actually. I have been on that. I'm losing my mind. Yes, I have been on this podcast a few months ago, I think it was. So he's got this podcast, I think Simon Stone and a few others do it, and they get fans in and they get people on it, like myself and others as well. And he did a series of tweets, like a bit of a thread, where he was saying what was going on and why he felt that this could be pointing towards Manchester United being taken over by Sheikh Jassim. So his tweet last night, this is at 20 to 11. He said, our latest on this when recorded this morning, there you go, you can see it. When I said I felt we were in the end game and it was heading Qatar's way. And he's quoted Sally Nugent there. Yep, I've definitely done that podcast because I remember I was on it with Sally Nugent as well. Said, How to Buy a Football Club, episode 25. It's all about the money. And after the weekend, the contrasting fortunes between the two Manchester clubs is very clear. So obviously there he's referring to his podcast and they talk about the takeover, and they've been doing this for several months. And like I said, I was on it not so long ago. So he's carried on with his tweets and he said, in after hours trading in New York, Manchester United shares spiked 17%. That is traders betting the Glazers are about to sell to Sheikh Jassim of Qatar. Everyone involved keeping tight-lipped though. So he's saying, well, look, this points to people knowing or expecting a takeover. So there's the price has spiked because there's money to be made. He also goes on to say, my colleague Simon Stone, we all love Simon Stone, spoke to PSG boss Bosch, when it turned into Sean Connery, Al Khalifa in Istanbul, who denied any interest in United, but my read on the story was that it confirmed the Glazers were trying all methods to squeeze the Jassim bid. So we had this on Friday, if you remember. Me and Steve spoke about it on the brew, because there was a bit of a frenzy around the fact that the PSG boss was involved in the Manchester United takeover. It was like, well, does that mean that PSG are going to be owned by the same people that own United, which isn't allowed, and Sheikh Jassim is meant to be separate from that, and the 92 Foundation is meant to be a complete different entity from the people that own PSG. So everyone was getting a little bit concerned, shall we say. But apparently, I think Al Khalifa was saying he was only involved in an advisory capacity to Sheikh Jassim's people or whatever to try and help them get the deal done. So he's spoken about that. He then goes on to say, last month, myself and Nick Robinson chewed the fat over football, United, geopolitics and diplomacy. From Blair to Cameron, Nick, as ever, is asked a very astute question about how to read the share price movements in New York, which seems relevant. So he says that the share price moving seems to indicate something. It's relevant. It's not something you just ignore. There's usually something going down when the share price spikes. There's news that someone knows, or there's something happening, or the market's waiting for something to happen. So he goes on to say, share spike still going up 16% since close, $20 already up 4% on the day at $23.5. According to Market Watch, it's about 190k shares trading after hours, so worth about $4 million. Thin trade, but excitable for after hours trade. So it's not like it's in stock market terms a huge amount of money. I know 4 million quid's big money, or $4 million. But in the grand scheme of things with the stocks of Manchester United, it's a thin trade. It's not like a massive chunk of shares or whatever have been bought up. But he then goes on to say, to be clear, all our normal sources are keeping stum. What we have is significant share price movement in after-hours New York trade, which might in turn have been driven by some definitely intriguing tweets, apparently from Watan, a newspaper, this is what I was saying about earlier, linked to Jassim family and its editor. So that's where people are going, well, if this newspaper's got links to the Jassim family, surely they've got some inside info. He then goes on to say, keen fans of the podcast will remember in episode 4-5 that Jassim's father, the ex-PM and half owner of the paper in question, didn't sound too impressed with the idea of bidding for United in an interview with Bloomberg, and said it should only be bought for business reasons. Okay, so that was the party line that he was coming out with. You may disagree, you may think, well, he's just going to say that. You may say, no, they're not going to have the pants pulled down. They're not just going to spend unlimited amounts of money to buy Manchester United if they don't think it's economically viable. That's a separate argument. I'm sure we can discuss it in a minute. But he then goes on to say, because this is all a series of tweets last night, not so thin after hours trade now, 250,000 trades in 2.5 hours. For reference, on normal days, full trading 1.8 million shares trade hands. Still 14% up on close. He then ends it with, to explain, reason share price is a gauge of perceived likelihood of Qatar victory is Jassim bid is for 100% of shares and will pay out on New York listed shares at takeover price. Ineos bid is believed to be focused on the Glazer shares alone. Listed shares won't immediately benefit. Forgive me, I just have a little sip of my coffee. So, if we can try and get our head around all that, because he's explained it, I think he's explained it quite well. You might not agree, you might disagree. It doesn't prove anything. A lot of this is speculation. He's not saying this definitely means that. He's saying you could look at it as meaning that people are going, well, hang on a minute, Qatari about to take over, there's the money to be made here, so that's why these trades are happening. And also, of course, because Sheikh Jassim wants to buy 100% of Manchester United, then there's shares there that can benefit, or the people that own those shares can benefit, whereas with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, it's just for the Glazers shares. But it's not set in stone. And it's worth remembering, this is something that's sort of worth noting. As of yet, no one that I really would sort of back as being very reliable has come out and said anything. No one, you've not had a tweet or a report. As far as I know, listen, if something happens whilst we're on here, please do let me know, has come out and said, look, it's happening, it's Qatar. It's still very, very quiet. And there are a lot of NDAs on this as well. I don't think anyone from Rain Group or maybe from Qatar Group or Sir Jim Ratcliffe can start leaking things to the press because that could breach their agreement. So it is interesting, but you can't ignore it. So it's weird because it's one of those where you can't ignore what's going on. You can't just go, well, it's all irrelevant. But as of yet, it doesn't prove anything. It's all speculation. There's loads of people in the comments on the chat. Sorry, I just wanted to get through all that before I got distracted and started answering chats and questions and comments and reading them out. I'm going to get into them now. By all means, let me know your feelings on this. Do you feel we are in the end game, as Faisal Islam said there? This feels like the end game. Do you think there's something going on here where it might be Qatar, who do have ties to this newspaper that's sort of been putting out this information, who are trying to force the Glazers' hand, trying to make something happen? If we're going to go crazy on conspiracy theories, is this Sir Jim Ratcliffe trying to make prices go up to force Qatar to buy more if they need to buy the extra 31% shares? I've no idea. Get involved in the chat in the comments and let me know. Low Grade Comic Collectors Global says, Jay, I went to OT for the first time. I'm 13 years and now I understand the regulars' frustration. It needs tearing down and rebuilding. It's a mess. I love Old Trafford. I love going there. I love supporting Manchester United Football Club. But I will be the first one to say that ground is not fit for purpose. I've had so many memories there. I've been going for 38 years. So many memories, but in my opinion, those memories will still be with me if we rebuild the stadium completely. That's my opinion. I'm in a minority. I know a lot of people don't want to see the stadium turned down and rebuilt because they have a lot of sort of emotional attachment to it, and I get it, but I think we need a brand new stadium. Abhinav Verma in the super chat says, I'm going to get to other chats as well. I'm not just going to do super chats. We're not just capitalist pigs. Abhinav Verma says, I was watching another channel, United People's TV. I know Sam Peoples. It's all right. You can reference him on here. It's fine. He mentioned that it stemmed from a tweet and it wasn't on the news site, but stock price rise is weird. I agree with everything you've just said there. That is weird. We don't really know that. I think that the root, if you unpick where this has come from, stems from a tweet from a relatively unreliable source. So don't think you can put too much weight into this. The big story for me is the stock price rise. That is something that you can see is happening. And you ask yourself why. The money men tend to know something. But again, it's not set in stone. Hail to the Greek says, Jay's wonderful bold head. He said bold. It might be bold, but it could be bold. Looks great today. Does Qatar buying 100% mean we will no longer be on the stock exchange? Glazers out. Great question. I presume so. I don't know. I presume if they own it all, then I don't think there's shares trading. But I barely am able to balance my own bank account, so my financial knowledge is non-existent. Also, people, can we have some likes? There's over 3,400 people watching. We haven't even got to 300 likes. That is a disgrace. Come on, let's have it. Jay Frasconi. Jay, I think it's likely that Qatar have won, but until the club announces it, I'm not getting excited. It's possible they're declaring victory publicly to pressure the Glazers for closure and get the fan base behind them. A very valid point there. That could be the case. There could be a bit of encouragement here, a bit of shenanigans, shall we say, people trying to encourage it one way or the other. I don't know. It could be that. Let's have let's sort of be open-minded about it. We don't actually know yet. Now, the Mirror, if I can go to a Mirror story, they went relatively big on it last night. So they backed this. Mirror Football did a tweet. Sheikh Jassim has been successful in his bid to buy Man United, according to triumphant reports from Qatar. There you can see. I'm going to get into more comments in a minute, so keep your comments coming and hit that like button, please. So, you see, everyone's saying according to reports from reports. Even the Qatar publication is saying reports. And when you go through all these reports, it seems to be stemming from a tweet. So I don't know how reliable these reports are. And when you check the ones that you do think are reliable, who are all over the financial news, people like Kieran Maguire, people who are just over the general football news who you rely upon, people like Romano, people like Ornstein, I didn't see anything. I've not seen anything yet. I will double check in a minute. That made me think, okay, something's popping off here. Because the ones that you usually go to, the tier 1 journalists, many of whom we've had on the tier 1 podcast on Stretford Paddock, make sure you are subscribing. None of those, as last time I checked, had said anything about it. So you think, okay, why is this breaking from a relatively obscure Twitter account? How have they got the inside info and no one else has had it? Because once that breaks, once it starts trending, as a journalist, you try and find out what's going on. Can I get this stood up? Does anyone have any info? Are there any sources I can contact who might know? And as of yet, I've not seen anything. But please, by all means, if I've missed it or if it's happening now as we speak, get involved in the chat and the comments and let me know. Gadget says, according to reports, both Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim are preferred bidders. TS7 says, are you very pro Sir Jim? Not really. I was at one point a few months ago. My only concern with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, my main concern, I spoke about this on Scotty Motti podcast last night, is this idea of the Glazers still staying on. I want the Glazers gone, mate. Now, the argument that you can make for that is, well, if under Sir Jim Ratcliffe's plan, if they do stay on, they won't have any control, which I get, and that's much better than them having control, but it still leaves a bit of a sour taste in the mouth of the fact that they're going to be at the club still. We want the Glazers gone, don't we, really? Jordan Clark says, love United, hate Glazers. Also, I'm going to start whizzing through some of these comments. Seren says, the most widely circulated newspaper in Qatar is an unreliable source. The thing is that widely circulated newspaper in Qatar isn't the source. That's the issue. If that was the source, then you'd go, well, that's right. But what they're saying is these reports, there are reports that the bid from Qatar has been successful. And it's from those reports, I think it retweeted the Twitter account, are coming from an unreliable source. That's the issue. When we do the paper talk, we'll talk about who's reporting what. So I'll say, such a body from Manchester Evening News or from the Daily Mail or whatever is reporting this. And that's what they've done. They've not said, this is happening, we know this is happening. They're saying reports indicate or reports suggest this is happening. And when you look where those reports have come from, they've come from an unreliable source. So what I go back to is, I think the big story for me is the stock price. The stock price rising is something you can see happening. It's tangible. You can see that is a factual thing. The stock price has risen. Something's popping off in the stock market. The story coming from the sources or the reports seems to stem from an unreliable source. That's the issue. Now, it may well be true. It doesn't mean just because it stems from something that's not proven, it can't be true. They could be right. But they haven't got a proven track record. So there's no reason really to think, well, this is definitely happening because they've said so. Let me know what you think. Give me a shout. MM says, Jay, sports washing, greenwashing, whatever washing we have to put up with, what with we can, but we need this dirtbags out. There's a great point there. I didn't even know greenwashing was a thing until I heard about it recently with the Sir Jim Ratcliffe thing. This is where you're buying something to give yourself good PR because of poor environmental records that you've got or your company's got, and there was question marks about Ineos and their attitude towards the environment, and I get it. I get that's a subject that's very important and close to a lot of people's hearts. Sports washing, spoken about that multitude of times, spoken about ever since Manchester City got Takeover. It's come up again with their successes recently. Sports washing is an issue, greenwashing is an issue. There's no happy medium, I think, here. A lot of these, well, both of these bids do have the flaws, they do. So it depends which one you're willing to stomach. I've got very good friends who I go to the games with who are like, listen, I want the Qatar bid. I think that's the one that's going to give us the best fighting chance of winning football matches and buying the best players and also competing with Manchester City who are becoming this juggernaut. And I've got friends who are Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I'd rather have him because I'm more against sports washing than I'm against greenwashing or whatever. Get involved in the comments and the chat. Let us know what you think. For me, I don't blame any United fan who has a different opinion on this. I think we all want the best for Manchester United. We might disagree on what we see as the best for Manchester United Football Club, but we all want the best for Manchester United. Can I just take a little sidebar here a minute as well? Did you see the Mbappe thing last night? That popped off, didn't it? Where there was, I think, was it Romano? Or someone was talking now, let me just see, sorry. Yeah, it's the ESPN have just tweeted this as well. and it came from Laurence Julien. I'll send you this tweet, Cal, and we can get it on the screen. I mean, I could have done multiple. This was trending. It was all happening last night. And it says PSG are listening to offers for Kylian Mbappe this summer. Because apparently Kylian Mbappe isn't going to sign a new deal at PSG. His deal runs out in 2024. So he's going to be on the market. I mean, it's all happening, isn't it? So there was talk last night, obviously, people putting 2 and 2 together and maybe coming up with 5, if we're being brutally honest, and going, look, Mbappe's for sale, according to these reports. Qatar, according to other reports, are about to buy Manchester United. Qatar have ties to PSG, even though Al Khalifi, who's been involved in the discussions for buying Manchester United, said, well, you know, it was just an advisory, and even though the 9-2 Foundation have said they're separate from the people that own PSG, but people putting 2 and 2 together and say, does this mean we're going to get Kylian Mbappe? Let me know what you think. I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that, to be honest with you. Oh, sorry, I've just sent, sorry, Cal, I've just sent you I've sent Callum the wrong, producer Callum the wrong tweet, or just a link to the ESPN account. There you go. That's one of many. But yeah, so there was a little bit of news breaking last night. It was all happening, wasn't it? There was news that was the Qatari bid could be successful. There was reports that it had been successful. The news that Kylian Mbappe was for sale. So everyone's going, does this mean that we're getting Qatar taking over Manchester United Football Club and the first signing is going to be Kylian Mbappe? Let us know what you think. Massive pinches of salt here with this one. But you can see there from ESPN, I mean, it's everywhere, this one. PSG are open to offers, or open to listening to offers. Open to listening to offers. There's a sentence. Why not just open to offers? But no, I'm open to listening to offers for Kylian Mbappe this summer. Sources have told Laurence Julien. To be fair, United do need a backup for Marcus. So, well, actually, we need a backup for Marcus and Garnacho, don't we? So, yeah, having Kylian Mbappe as an option would be great. Terrible Pie says, best for the team, budget different on the washing front is it's hard. Yeah, he's used the Q word there. I don't know if I'm allowed to use that. Fans are square owned by a country that executes us. No good option here. He's talking about the Qatari human rights abuses and question marks and the way they treat members of the LGBTQ plus community. Obviously, that is an issue for a lot of people as well. And if Qatar is successful, it's a conversation that needs to be had. Again, there are lots of different caveats and signs to this. There's people that are going to look at it and go, Qatar, if we are going to be owned by, is it a state bid? Or is it Sheikh Jassim? I think we have to be brutally honest here. It does look like a state-owned enterprise because from what I gather, Sheikh Jassim does have money, but he doesn't have the kind of money that would give him unlimited wealth unless he's got access to the state wealth. Again, you may disagree, but get involved in the comments and the chat. Let us know what you think. But it seems very similar to what we heard from Newcastle with Saudi Arabia and from Manchester City with Abu Dhabi. It's not just one person. It's the access to this fund, which is kind of the state owning the club. So does that bother you? Are you interested in that? Do you care about that? Or are you just of the opinion you want Manchester United to have the best chance of winning trophies, of challenging for honours, and you feel like Manchester United being owned by Qatar would give us that best chance? Let me know. Abhinav Verma says, Sheikh Jassim is a billionaire who needs his dad permission to spend the money, and his dad is the state. So the family have got massive ties to the state. I think his dad was the Prime Minister, his granddad was one of the founders of the modern Qatar or something. This is a family that is rooted in the Qatari ruling family, so I don't think we can really deny that or ignore it. I think that is part of it. The question is, does that bother you? SK says, with the info we have and heard, it's just far better off for Manchester United as a club, debt-free, infrastructure investment, and they actually seem concerned with delays to the transfer window. There were reports, weren't there, that they were annoyed at the how long this was taking, because let's not forget on Friday we had this, or not last week we had this report that Sheikh Jassim wanted the deal done by Friday, or he wasn't going to continue negotiations. He wasn't going to pull out. I think there was a bit of miscommunication there, a bit of misinformation that he was going to pull out of the deal if he hadn't been given an answer by Friday, and I don't think it was. I think he wasn't going to continue negotiations. That was his final offer. Take it or leave it. I'm not going to have any more chat about it. You know my offer. Deal with it or don't, but we're not going to keep going back and forth. However, I don't know how serious that is. Let us know if you hear anything as well. Yeah? Let us know if you see anything or you hear anything or you see any breaking tweets or anything where you think this indicates something. We may We may well find out more today. We may well see more with the stock market. That could be a big indication of what is going to happen. Because if we see more on the stock market, that may say, okay, there's something carrying on now, or the price may go down again. It might be like the market calms down and you think, all right, maybe it was just a spike for whatever reason, people getting the wrong information, people taking a punt or whatever. It doesn't actually indicate anything. But let's have a look. CJ says, Jay, the Qatar report started from the news press, which is apparently owned by the father of Sheikh Jassim, where they stated Jassim is successful and further reports coming soon. Love from Canada. The problem with that is they reported, reports indicate. So let's have a little bit of a recap, because this is the sort of the issue. In fact, Carl, I'll send you I'll send you on WhatsApp if that's okay, bro, because I think Alexi sent it me. So I'm just picking through some of the tweets that did the rounds that sent everyone into a frenzy, because it was Al Watan Qatar. Forgive me for my pronunciation and just butchering everything. That sort of first had this, and where everyone was going, okay, with this means something. So yeah, it was Al Watan Qatar, and I will send you this as well, producer Callum, who last night, or yesterday evening actually, were tweeting about this, and that is the outlet that's got ties to the Qatari royal family. So they were saying, press reports the success of Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad bin Jassim's acquisition of United and the announcement of the deal soon. So they're saying the press reports that this bid has been successful. So people going, well, if they're saying that the bid's been successful, and I think they're owned 50% owned by the state or whatever, or owned by the Qatari family, Sheikh Jassim's family, there you can see it, then that must be true. But that is the issue here. It's the bit that says press reports. So they're saying that the press have reported this. That's what they're saying. They're not saying it's happening. They're saying there's press reports regarding this. And I think they retweeted a tweet that came from an unreliable source. So it seems that the press reports they were referring to came from an unreliable source. So that is the issue with that one, is I don't think you can go, well, that definitely means it's happening. Because if they were saying Sheikh Jassim bin Jassim's acquisition of United has been successful and the announcement of the deal's coming soon, if they were just making it as a statement, you could go, right, okay, that looks like it's something popping off. But they're saying press reports, and when you look where the press reports come, it doesn't look great. It doesn't look that reliable. Ryan Daniel Sequeira says, state-owned would matter if we were the first. Now it does not matter. Jimpo D says, hey, Jay, are you sick? You lose a lot of weight. Thanks for that. I've lost a lot of weight. I'm not sick. I've cut out sugar. Best Hijacker says, he's joined the first team. Become a member. Go and check out the membership. We've got extra content on there. Loads of extra content on there. We've got some vlogs. We've got some extra videos. If you can, join our membership. There's a link in the description. We appreciate all your support. Kaiser Salim says, yes, but they were the first ones to report, Jay. That's where the press reports thing is confusing. But they retweeted another account, I think, first. Can we put that? I think we might have a tweet that this originated from, I think. Breaking news. Agreement has been reached between Sheikh Jassim and Manchester United. Announcement will be soon, and Qatar will be the new owner of Manchester United. Now, I think that was retweeted by the other site that has ties to the Qatar family. You can see there, it's got 4,000 likes, 281k views. It's got a lot of attention. And how many followers has it got? 244. So you can't really put too much weight in it. And listen, you can see something, you can know something's happening, and you've only got a few hundred followers. I don't think you have to have loads of followers to be right. But it doesn't seem like that is a news outlet that you'd go, well, they're obviously reliable. They've got 240 odd followers. No, come on. So that's why I think there's a bit of an issue there. Kalish Roslan, welcome to the academy. I think I've done you a disservice there. Welcome to the first team. Thank you for your support, joining the membership. That is much appreciated. Wayne Fairclough says, no drugs and now no sugar. WTF, lol. Yeah, I'm cutting everything out, man. There's just nothing left, is there? Do you know what I mean? No sugar, no drugs, no beer. City winning the treble. What's going on? It's all right. It's all good. Saber Mark 42 says, I didn't read his super chat. If I have missed your super chat, forgive me. I will try and... Oh, will United lose some of its soul? I'm conflicted. That's from Saber Mark 42. Apologies, I didn't read that first time round. I'm trying my best and sometimes I miss things. I mean, it's a fair question. I've seen a lot of criticism for City's treble win. Oh, it's just sports washing, it's empty, it's this, that and the other. Would you feel the same way if it was United doing that? There's an argument of you can't beat them, join them. There's another argument that actually, if we were just going down a sports washing route, it wouldn't feel like it did in 99 if we were to have success, because it's just basically throwing a load of money on it in the name of the state to have success. Let me know what you think. Graham, welcome to the first team. Thanks for your support. Daniel Farr says, still have your Nando's. That's something, lol. Thank you. Hit the like button. Let's get to 1,000 likes. Come on. Over 4,400 people watching. We can get to 1,000 likes. Hit the like button if you've not done already. There you go. There's a little graphic. 3-inch hippopotamus says, the Mirror saying it's imminent. Yeah, we've got a tweet from the Mirror. Can we bring up the Mirrors? The Mirror went quite big on this last night. And obviously everyone knows the Mirror, pretty reliable. You'd think, well, relatively reliable. They, again, though, are reporting about reports. So they said, Sheikh Jassim has been successful in his bid to buy Man United, according to triumphant reports from Qatar. So I think as well, Joe Smith has just walked in. So what we'll try and do, we'll try and get Joe a mic, and me and him will have a little chat now, because there's 4,000 of you watching. So Joe's going to jump on, and me and him will have a little discussion here. So I'll do a little recap. Stick with us. We're going to stay on this live, because I want to get Joe's thoughts on what's popping off, because obviously it's all happening, but we don't know how much of it is something is actually happening, how much of it is conjecture, how much of it is just based on the stock market, how much of it is based on this lad with 244 followers, how much of it is based because the Qatari outlet that's got ties to the royal family has retweeted this. I mean, it just all seems a little bit sort of, I don't know, confusing, I think is the right word. I don't think we can definitely hang our hat on this and go, it is happening, but the stock market one for me is the most interesting part to it, because that is something you can see is happening. There is a spike in the stock market. Now, the issue I've got with that is I don't understand the stock market. I haven't got a jar of glue what that means. It could mean anything. Some people are saying, well, that means that because Sheikh Jassim is going to buy 100% of Manchester United, people who want to make some money are then going, well, there's money to be made on the stock market because Sheikh Jassim is going to buy some shares that aren't tied to the Glazers, so that's why that's happening. Others may say it's just a thin sort of acquisition. I think Faisal Islam said it was a thin trade. I think that's how he described it. So it's not a huge amount of shares relative to what how much Manchester United are worth. So you have to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt. SK says, the soul of United is its fans. History, even with Qataris. We are totally different to City. They broke rules. Rich owners doesn't mean we are City. This lets City off for what they have done. That is a good point. City's rule breaking, allegedly at the minute. They've been charged with 115 breaches of the rules. So there's a lot of charges going on there. So we can't ignore that. And that is different. That is a separate thing to them being state-owned. Because just because you're state-owned doesn't mean you've broken the rules. If that's within the rules, that's fair enough. But they have been charged with breaching 115 rules. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. Hit the like button. Let me know what you think about this. Do you think this is going to happen? Do you think that this means Qatar are going to take over? Do you think that it's all a bit of noise? Do you think this is Sheikh Jassim's people maybe leaking stuff or trying to encourage the Glazers to sell? Do you think this is Sir Jim Ratcliffe trying to push that share price up because he's only after the Glazers share and this could affect Sheikh Jassim's bid? I don't know the answer to that, but you may have some views on this and I want to hear your views. Alan Tenno says, hashtag Qatar in. Clark Piggott says, you guys seem like you don't want this to happen. I want some clarity. I tell you, that's what I want. But I'm not going to get carried away. Chris says, Fabrizio Romano saying it's done. Is that true? Or is Chris winding us up? Let's see what Fabrizio Romano has tweeted. Has he said anything? Can't see anything. I'm missing that one if he has. No, I don't think he has. His last tweet, I think, was about N'Golo Conte going to Saudi Arabia. So unless he's treating that as a priority over Manchester United, then I don't think he has tweeted. Anyway, enough from me. Let's bring my good friend and esteemed colleague, Joe Smith, into the fray. How are we doing, brother? It's all happening. What do you make of it all? It's kicking off big time.
Yeah. Is there any source on this, or is it just some bloke with no followers? If we're honest, like if we just boil it down to what has actually happened rather than the reaction to what's happened, is this some information by someone who no one's ever heard of being then repeated by a media outlet that supposedly has links to Sheikh Jassim? Is that actually what's happened?
Well, do you want the truth, or do you want some exciting bluster?
Because I've been trying to find out what's going on. I've been in the gym, going after everything, trying to work out what's going on. Terrible signal.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of actually in the dark here. So what actually has happened? Lay it out for me.
Right, here's some facts as we know it.
Give me the facts.
It broke last night on Twitter. Sheikh Jassim's trending, Qatar's trending. There's a lot of noise that the Qatar bid has been successful.
Yes.
So you think, something is happening. Now, we've been here before, and a lot of it I thought was a reaction to City's parade and people going, we want the Qatari bid because City have had all this success and I'm sick of it and they're state-owned, and if we have to go down that route to be successful, so be it. I thought that's what it might be. However, there was a news outlet from Qatar that has ties to the Qatari royal family that was saying reports are that Sheikh Jassim has been successful.
Yeah.
However, those reports seem to stem from this Twitter account, which isn't ultra reliable.
Who is this Twitter account? Who actually are they?
It seems to lead to this Twitter account that's got 244 followers.
And you can have 244 followers and have been in the room when this deal was signed. You could just be, you could be an advisor to Sheikh Jassim who isn't particularly prevalent on social media. There's a possibility, followers doesn't necessarily equal reliability, but who are they? Who is this person with 244 followers?
It's just a Twitter account, I think, that does the odd tweet about news and stuff.
Right.
I'll be honest with you, but I think it's highly unlikely that they know anything.
But then my question to that would be, why, of every tweet over the last 2 weeks or even 24 hours that has referenced the Qatari bid, that has referenced United's ownership, why would it be this tweet from this unknown person that Qatari state media or whatever, links to the state are retweeting and reporting on? Why? Who in the Qatari media, who on earth follows this person with 200 followers and thought that seems like the guy to report on? Because there's been loads of people with more followers than that going, Qatar will win, the bid will be... Like, people just speculating. If it's just reporting on speculation, why has this reputable news outlet with like 250,000 followers decided to report a tweet by some absolute no-name for no reason? It seems an odd one for me for whatever Qatari journalist to choose that tweet to sort of report on.
It's a very good question, and it is odd. Now, I think if this was on its own, it'd be one thing. But the reason that this has caused even more of a frenzy is because the stock price went up. There was a spike.
But that when was that?
Last night. I think it was out of hours trading, I think it's called. Now, for someone who is relatively reliable, Faisal Islam, who does the How to Buy a Football Club podcast with the BBC. I've been on it. Simon Stone does it as well. He did a series of tweets. Can I read these out to you, John?
I'd love
is that
to
all
hear
right,
those,
bro? Because he's someone who... I think there's a little bit more weight in what he's saying, and he did a Twitter thread to try and explain his thoughts on this. So he's saying, here's how I'm reading what's going on with the stock market.
Okay.
Here's what I feel. He's quite open about the fact he's not saying this is set in stone or that he knows this. He's just saying, this is my interpretation of the stock market event. So he did a tweet where he said, our latest on this when recorded this morning, so he's quote tweeted his podcast, when I said I felt we were in the end game and it was heading Qatar's way. Because they'd done a podcast earlier that day, How to Buy a Football Club, episode 25. It's all about the money. And after the weekend, the contrasting fortunes between the two Manchester clubs is very clear. So he's quoted that tweet saying, look, I felt we were in the end game and it's going to Qatar. He's then done another tweet where he said, in after hours trading in New York, Manchester United shares spiked 17%. That is traders betting the Glazers are about to sell to Sheikh Jassim Qatar. Everyone involved keeping tight lip, though. He's interpreted it as that, He's saying the traders are looking at it going, United are about to sell, or the Glazers are about to sell, there's dough to be made.
But do you know the no offence?
No, go on, because there is more from him, to be fair, but go on.
The thing with traders is, typically, and for everything that you read and see about how the stock market works and, how the value of companies goes up and down, traders know fuck all. Don't they? Unfortunately, they do. A trader is someone in New York, probably, because we're on the New York Stock Exchange. A bloke in New York who has no connections with Qatar whatsoever, thinking they might sell to Qatar.
Yeah.
It's like betting odds. When you go to the bookies, you know, it used to be the case with MMA when it was a younger sport, sort of 10, 15 years ago. You could get crazy odds on anyone who wasn't American to beat the American. Yeah. You'd have an amazing fighter from Brazil who'd come from a different organisation who, if you knew MMA, would be a clear favourite. But because they weren't American, the American bookies would always, would always have the American as favourite. Yeah. So you used to be able to make money on it dead easy because no one knew the Brazilian fighters very well.
Right, okay.
And these traders, no offence, how do they know? How does some 22-year-old American bloke with a blue shirt that's got white collars and cuffs know who's about to buy Manchester United? Like the stock prices are based on speculation and like confidence.
Yeah.
They're not based on fact. And sometimes retroactively it becomes fact.
Yeah.
But like for instance, Tesla over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, their stock price absolutely soared to being one of the biggest companies, if not the biggest in the world. Elon Musk was the richest man on earth, or highest net value on earth. Not because Tesla made the most money of any company in the world, but because they were the most popular company in the world, because more people were buying those shares for a number of different reasons. So obviously, Faisal Islam knows more about the stock market than me. I'm not saying he doesn't. But anything that is based on the public or smaller companies buying something based on confidence and speculation isn't evidence itself, is it, necessarily?
No, it's not. And I think, to be fair to Faisal, he is sort of being open about the fact that, listen, this is the way I see it. Yeah. This isn't fact. So he goes on to say, last month, myself and Nick Robinson chewed the fat over football, United, geopolitics and diplomacy. From Blair to Cameron, Nick, as ever is, asked a very astute question about how to read the share price movements in New York, which seems relevant. So he's saying, look, there could be some relevance here. He then goes on to say, share spike, this is last night, still going up 16% since close. $20 already up 4% on day at $23.50. According to Market Watch, it's about 190,000 shares trading after hours, so worth about $4 million. Thin trade, but excitable for after hours trade. Yeah. So it's a thin trade, like 4 million quid in the grand scheme of things isn't massive. No. It's a thin trade is the way he's described it, and I understand that. He then goes on to say, to be clear, all our normal sources are keeping stum. That's a quite a ambiguous line in it. So he's not saying they're not saying keeping stum. For me, that almost indicates like, oh, they know something, but they're not saying anything. What we have is significant share price movement in after hours New York trade, which might in turn have been driven by some definitely intriguing tweets, apparently from Watan, a newspaper linked to Jassim family and its editor. Yeah. So this could be an almost sort of little echo chamber.
The sort of the cart leading the horse almost. You this get these tweets and then the stock price rises off the back of them. And then people go, oh, look, the stock price has risen. That must mean those tweets were true. But that's not necessarily the case.
Sort of
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Self-fulfilling prophecy, thank you. Yeah, it could be that. So he then goes on to say, keen fans of the podcast will remember in episode 4/5 that Jassim's father, the ex-Prime Minister and half owner of the paper in question, didn't sound too impressed with the idea of bidding for United in an interview with Bloomberg and said it should only be bought for business reasons. He then goes on to say, because this is all sort of progressing and it's a developing story in terms of what's happening in the stock market, not so thin after hours trade now, $250,000 in trades in 2.5 hours. For reference, on a normal day's full trading, 1.8 million shares trade hands. Still 14% up on close. He then ends his thread to explain reason share price is a gauge of perceived likelihood of Qatar victory is Jassim bid is 100% of shares and will pay out on New York listed shares at takeover price. Ineos bid is believed to be focused on the Glazers shares alone. Listed shares won't immediately benefit. So he's interpreting it in that way. Yeah, he's saying this could mean that people are going, look, there's money to be made here because if the Qatar are going to take over, some of these shares the Glazers don't own are going to be up for grabs or whatever. But it's slightly confusing to me that. I'm not going to lie to you.
Just on my knowledge of shares, and obviously, again, I'm not remotely claiming to know more, and this is just a question, and maybe people in the comments can answer this. The comment there was, if Sheikh Jassim buys Manchester United, he will also buy all of the shares off the stock market at the listed price. That's what it said there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So let's say, what is it now at the moment? $30?
It was, I think, he said 23.5.
23.5.
I think so. I might be wrong on that, but say for the sake of argument, whatever.
So let's say the deal was announced today.
Yeah.
Sheikh Jassim buys all of those shares today.
Yeah.
And you bought them last night at $21, you then are forced to sell them today at $25. Let's say it keeps going up.
Yeah.
So you've made $4 per share, and let's say you bought 1,000 shares, that's $4,000 you've made, right?
Yeah.
If Sheikh Jassim doesn't buy them and Jim Ratcliffe does buy the club instead, and the share price goes up, because I think it still could, because anyone,
a new owner, exciting.
Because anytime the Glazers talked about maybe not selling at all, the share prices would tank. So let's assume that the share price does go up slightly, even if Jim Ratcliffe buys the club. You can still sell those shares.
Yeah.
If you bought them at 21, you can still sell them at 25 today. And the thing that people need to realise with, and again, I'm not trying to put a dampener or anything here.
No, I think we should be.
But the thing that people need to realise is
about what we know.
A lot of people who are into buying shares, not like me and you, Jay, not just the general public who've never really bought shares, don't really know what's going on. People who buy shares buy them on speculation and on excitement and sell them again. A lot of people will be buying tonight and selling before any deal is even announced. Because look, it's gone up 16%, buy, sell, done. 16% profit and I'm out. Not because they care about Manchester United or because they want to be bought out by a mandatory purchase or whatever by Sheikh Jassim, because they are seeing the trend of the shares going up and they want to ride that roller coaster. Yeah. That's what traders do. They don't care about the company or how well a football club in this instance is doing. They care about the share price. And if they see it going up, they'll buy shares. And if they see it going down, they'll sell shares. It's literally that simple. Or, they'd like to sell them when they're still going up, obviously. But one doesn't cause the other.
No.
And the people buying the shares, most of them aren't doing it because they're happy about Sheikh Jassim. They're doing it because they're happy that the share price is going up.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing.
I'll get your point completely and I agree with it. There's another sort of reason that people are getting excited. The Express, who have got their sort of live updates, and every paper's going live updates. Every paper's reporting the reports of the reports, if that makes sense to you. Yeah. They're saying Sheikh Jassim congratulated. The reported news of Sheikh Jassim's takeover United has been well received by his compatriot Zaid Al Hamdan. The Canadian Qatar Business Council Vice Chairman congratulated the Qatari banker on Twitter. You can see it there, saying, congratulations to Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad bin Jassim on his acquisition of Man United. Now, again, this doesn't mean it's happened, but it's adding fuel to somebody's fire.
There's obviously it feels like something's happened.
That is another reason. It's, some of these reasons might be very small, but they're all adding up. So when you put them all together, it's like people feel that something is happening, something's popping off. Yeah. We've got a situation where, you've got the paper that's owned by the Qatari royal family tweeting certain things. You've got the Canadian Vice Council chap congratulating bin Jassim. You've got the share price spiking. So on its own, you might, none of that means anything, but put them together, you start to think, well, is there something here? Now, at the moment, we don't know. No. I don't think there's anywhere where you can go, that means that this is happening. No. I feel like we may even get to the situation where, because of the share price, what's going on there, because of these reports, that there is movement, that the negotiations, whoever the negotiations come to a head. Yeah. Where you maybe use Sir Jim Ratcliffe and you go, what is going on here? Yeah. If this is true, if there is anything to this, let me know. I need to know, because I'm not, do I need to come back in with another bid? Are we done? Is it time to walk away? If you're Sheikh Jassim and you've still not heard anything, you might be trying to encourage them to do something here. So you just don't know where this is going to lead.
We already heard from Sheikh Jassim's team reportedly that he was going to walk away on Friday if his bid wasn't accepted.
Well, that didn't happen.
Back. So that didn't happen.
But so I think
all the people involved in this, you can't take the reports at face value.
No.
From what the Glazers say, from what Jim Ratcliffe says, from what Sheikh Jassim says. We don't know these people personally. Regardless of who it is, there have been mixed reports seemingly coming out of the camp of each of these, sort of seems like a three-pronged kind of deliberation going on at the minute.
Yeah.
And we've seen reports from all of them come out that have turned out to not be true.
Yeah.
So who knows? And also, like you said, when you add up all of these kind of small bits of evidence, it looks as though something's happening. But again, what could be happening is all of these bits of evidence are built off this tweet from someone with 244 followers. So you end up going, oh, well, his mates congratulated him, and The Express have tweeted it, and Daily Mail are reporting on it, and BBC and Simon Stone's reporting on it, but they're all reporting on the reports. And if you actually follow it back down, that report is just based on sand.
That's the problem.
It's not
That's the issue I've got. Because whenever we do the paper talk in the morning, me and you both do that. When you get a newspaper that says according to reports, or when we do Paddock Live, when we do Transfers Live, when we do anything, you click on a link where it says reports, and you say, where's that report come from? And then sometimes that'll be another paper that's going according to reports from Spain or whatever. So you go, okay, well, what's this? And you trace it back to the first story or the first publication or outlet that broke it. Now, if that outlet is someone with 12 followers, then you go, well, this is nonsense. If it stems from, I don't know, a story in maybe the Times or Sport Eins or someone from Germany or Christian Falk or whatever, where you go, okay, he knows his stuff. Or
sort of the Telegraph in Netherlands as well.
Someone like Mike Vigil, someone where you go, that is a reliable source. We've had, Florian Plettenberg's quite hot on the gym news as well. Someone where you go, okay, it's coming from him. He's got his sources. He'll spoke to someone at the club. That makes sense to me. But when it's coming from somewhere you've never heard of him, they've not really got much of a following, it's hard not to think this is nonsense. And
also, we're in an unprecedented position as United fans, and even as football fans really, where we've gone from knowing who is reputable. When it comes to a player transfer, I know the sort of 10 or 15 or so journalists from around the world, and there's more than that, but at any given time, there's a sort of a paddock of X amount of journalists who we're all pretty certain, if they're saying it, there's some truth to it. We kind of know those names. But when it comes to a business acquisitions, I don't have that lived experience of seeing many businesses be acquired and knowing who the big players around the world are. When the Financial Times report something, I think, well, that makes sense. They're called the Financial Times, but I don't know. Do you know what I mean? You would think, if you weren't a football fan, you would think the Daily Sport would be a great, reputable. Well, they've literally got the word sport in the title, and they're shit. So, do you know what I mean? I don't know who to trust, because I'm not in the world of international business.
I hear that. It's a great point. There's loads of chats. We're going to get into some of these chats. Anka Gupta says, not an expert, but if funds have bought the shares, they may hold, cause Sir Jim Ratcliffe will have to pay premium to buy the shares from the market. Jayanth Nayak says, please check Zaid Al Hamdan tweet. Congrats on bid 1. Yeah, we've just read that out. Ankor Gupta says, traders at times buy on the basis of news and speculation.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Grace Sheridan says, I never wanted Qatar, Jim. Stressing about this club has hurt my mental health. I'm happy for United fans, but I'm sitting back as a neutral from now on. Make sure you look after yourself as well.
There's a tweet from Ben Jacobs, who is sort of, again, he's a new player in all of this. I know he's not new to journalism, but he's someone that has kind of
sort of risen to prominence. I never heard of him a few months ago, and now he seems to be the go-to guy for info on the Qatari bid mainly. He seems to speculate a lot on that. He doesn't talk about Sir Jim Ratcliffe as much.
Can we get that on the screen instead? We'll get it out in a sec.
So Ben Jacobs, I think he's from CBS Galazzo or something.
Yeah.
He's been this journalist who's been sort of leading the way on news reports and stories regarding the state of the Qatari bid and where it's up to and what is happening. So you can see it here on your screens. It says lots of speculation on the United sale process and an out-of-hours stock price surge reacting to that. But as of last night, no group had been informed they are successful, not expecting anything public or groundbreaking in the next few days. If that changes, we'll update you. Now, he's been quite on it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know Ben Jacobs. No. I don't know how reliable he is. I know he's been getting a lot of attention and he's been quite confident in what he's been saying, that he does seem to know what he's on about. And I've also seen a few other newspapers reporting on his tweets and what he said. So some people putting weight behind his words, but he's saying, listen, I've not heard anything and there's nothing popping off here as of yet.
He's saying quite confidently there that as of last night, no one had been informed they had a successful bid. Those are words of someone who is at least sort of proclaiming to have an inside track on what Sheikh Jassim and what Jim Ratcliffe have actually been told by United. You know, he's not just saying no word of this. He's saying no one was informed of having a successful bid. So he's quite clear in that. And that was, I know that tweet was nearly 3 hours ago, but that was as of last night. So that is in response to those tweets and that report coming out of Qatar. And again, we assume that because the Qatari media, and I don't know the structures of the Qatari media, but the way that we are told that the outlet reporting on that has links to the royal family. I don't know what those links are. I don't know who owns it. And I've tried to have a look before, but again, it's quite difficult finding detailed kind of public house records of who owns things in around the world. But because it's owned seemingly by someone linked to Sheikh Jassim, we assume that everything they say is correct. But again, we don't know that that's the case. Like there's so many newspapers in England that you think, well, if I wasn't from England and I didn't understand the way that the sort of British newspaper landscape worked, I would assume it was correct. Like you would assume, the Daily Express, okay, that makes sense, and you go, well, actually, no, they're just making it up. There's a chance that this Qatari outlet is equally as unreliable. You don't know. That's what I'm saying. We're in this unprecedented situation where we're getting our news from Manchester United from a sort of Qatari state news, which is something that in my lifetime has never happened. So I can't assess the validity of that outlet. Do you know what I mean? It's just a weird situation to be in, and we're all sat here. I'm not getting too excited either way because I don't really know. You know what I mean? It's weird, isn't it? It's just a bizarre situation to be in.
It is really weird, and it is bizarre. And what made it even more bizarre last night? The bizarro world.
Yeah.
It was the fact that Kylian Mbappe is up for sale in the summer. So everyone was putting two and two together and going, obviously Qatar are about to buy us, and we're going to sign Kylian Mbappe. Listen.
Would you want him?
Kylian Mbappe? I said earlier we need a backup for Marcus and Garnacho. They can't play every game.
No, and the thing is, if you've got Garnacho coming off the bench, you need someone else on the bench, don't you?
When like you saw the cup final, Garnacho comes off the bench, and you're looking at the bench after he's come off, and you're going, where's our goals coming from? So imagine you've got Mbappe on that bench as your third choice.
Well, no. Bro. So imagine you've got Rashford obviously starts, then you bring Garnacho on. Yeah. Then obviously, if Garnacho isn't working, like you've said, then you sort of bring Pellistri on or whatever, and then
Diallo.
Yeah, and I think also people forget Bruno can play off the left.
Yeah.
But if they don't work or there's more injuries,
also as well, he's going to get minutes in the Carabao Cup and that, isn't he?
You'd think so, yeah. Early rounds anyway, unless we draw a top team.
He'll still be eligible for under-23s as well, won't
he? Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll get some game time.
He's going to get minutes, isn't he?
He'll get minutes. So yeah, we may as well get him in. Listen, I'm going to wrap it up there. Joe, thanks for jumping on with me, brother.
Thank you.
I needed that. Thank you for everyone who joined in on the chat as well. And I appreciate the fact that, we went early and everyone was getting involved and everyone was trying to, we felt we were on this together, trying to unpick what is going on. We're going to be back later on. We're going to do a live later on this afternoon. We're also going to hear from Stephen Alston. We're going to hear from Adam McCullough as well. And obviously me and Joe will be back on. So make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe to Stretford Paddock. We want to get to 700,000 subscribers by the end of this month, and with your support, I'm confident we can do it. Joe, where can people find you?
Joe Smith 93 on Instagram and Twitter. And here, anytime there is breaking news, we'll be live. So hit the notification bell as well. Yeah, make sure you are doing that. I've been Jay Moy. That's been Joe Smith. This has been a bit of breaking news for the Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.